Hello students, so welcome to online platform of IQCivils IS Academy, and as we all know, yesterday UPSC conducted prelims examination 2024 all over India, and nearly 5 lakh candidates appeared in the exam. And so my name is Anuj Singh. I'm faculty of geography essay writing aptitude at IQCivils IS Academy, and today I'll be discussing about the CSAT GS paper 2, and in particular we'll be discussing the reading comprehension and verbal reasoning section. So let us start immediately with the questions, and we'll be discussing set C. So question number one, according to the Food and Agricultural Organization, one third of the food produced for human consumption is lost or wasted globally. Food is lost or wasted throughout the supply chain from initial agricultural production to final household consumption. The increasing wastage also results in land degradation by about 45%, mainly due to deforestation, unsustainable agricultural practices, and excessive groundwater extraction. The energy spent over wasted food results in about 3.5 billion tons of carbon dioxide production every year. So you can see the energy which is spent over decomposing waste food is basically resulting in 3.5 billion tons of carbon dioxide production every year. Decay also leads to harmful emissions of other gases in the atmosphere. Addressing the loss and wastage of food in all forms is critical to complete the cycle of food efficiency and food sustainability. So food efficiency basically minimizing wastage. So that also means that more gets to the consumers. So less is the wastage, more food available for the consumers. Food sustainability, that we maintain consistent food supply for generations to come, for future generations as well. So let us look at the question. So which of the following statements best reflects the most logical and rational inferences that can be made from the passage? So statement 1, the food energy methods of food distribution are solely responsible for the loss and wastage of food. So definitely, see, this is a UPSC trick. It seems okay. You might think, yes, we are talking about food supply chain from agricultural production to consumer to final consumption. So definitely, it seems correct that definitely food distribution methods are responsible for loss and wastage. But the word solely here, this is problematic. So UPSC plays this trick that solely, the words like solely, words like only, invariably is another word which means only. So this narrows down the meaning of the passage. But the passage here is focusing on that food supply chain is leading to loss and wastage, but passage does not say that only food supply chain is leading to loss and wastage of food. So one is ruled out, one is not correct. Land productivity is adversely affected by the prevailing trend of food loss and wastage. So this is definitely correct. You can see from the passage line in the middle, you can see the increasing wastage also results in land degradation by about 45%. So statement 2 is correct. Statement 3, reduction in loss and wastage of food results in lesser carbon footprint. So this is also okay, because we have seen in the passage it is clearly written that energy spent over wasted food results in about 3.5 billion tons of carbon dioxide production. So definitely, if there is a reduction in loss and wastage of food, there will be lesser carbon footprint. Number 4, so statement 3 is correct. Post harvest technologies to prevent or reduce the loss and wastage of food are not available, right? So are not available. So definitely we are not talking about in the passage about this. There is no reference about post harvest technology, and post harvest technology to prevent or reduce the loss and wastage of food are not available. We are talking about a complete supply chain, but in specific we are not talking about whether post harvest technologies are available or not. So this is not correct. So this is just to confuse. So statement 4 is wrong. So what is the answer? Answer is statement B, option B, 2 and 3 only. Okay, so answer is B, 2 and 3 only. Moving to second question from the passage. Based on the above passage, the following assumptions have been made. So assumption number 1, the food distribution mechanism needs to be reimagined and made effective to reduce the loss and wastage of food. So definitely yes. So food supply chain has to be redesigned and made effective so that loss and wastage of food could be achieved. So definitely that is correct from the first 3-4 lines of the passage. Statement number 2, ensuring the reduction of wastage and loss of food is a social and moral responsibility of all citizens. So definitely this is a statement which is correct in a generic manner, but definitely it is not correct as per the passage, because nowhere in the passage we are talking about social and moral responsibility of citizens. So answer is 1 only. 2 is ruled out. Answer is 1 only. Okay. So moving to another passage. So passage number 2 is about economy. So as inflation rises, inflation is महंगाई, or products and services becoming costlier in an economy, right? So as inflation rises, even governments previously committed to budget discipline are spending freely to help households. Higher interest rates announced by central banks are supposed to help produce modest fiscal austerity. So higher interest rate announced by central banks, meaning by higher interest rate to discourage loans by individuals and businesses. So discourage loans, why? So that liquidity in the market can be controlled, and if there is lesser money in the market, definitely inflation will be higher. So a higher interest rate announced by central government supposed to help reduce modest fiscal austerity, because to maintain stable debts while paying more to borrow, governments must cut spending or raise taxes. So you see this phrase here, governments must cut spending or raise taxes. So this is exactly what is meant by fiscal austerity. So governments must cut spending means they are saving money. Governments raising taxes means they are increasing revenue, right? So without the fiscal backup, monetary policy eventually loses traction. Okay, higher interest rates become inflationary, not disinflationary, because they simply lead governments to borrow more to pay rising debt service cost. So definitely, if the interest rate is higher, lesser will be the money supply in the market, loans will be discouraged. Definitely, money as a commodity will lose value, and if money as a commodity loses value, it becomes, the products and services become costly, right? Sorry about that. And continuing, the risk of, last sentence, the risk of monetary unmooring is greater when public debt rises, because interest rates become more important to budget deficits. Okay, definitely it is correct. So now let us look at the question. Which of the following statements reflects the most logical and rational inference that can be made from the passage, right? So see, central banks cannot bring down inflation without budgetary backing. Okay, central banks cannot bring down inflation without budgetary backing. So central banks can bring down inflation. Yes, I think so, because central banks can bring down inflation. You know how they can bring down inflation is by reducing interest rates. So if they reduce interest rates, loans will be encouraged, more money supply in the market, and definitely the inflation can be controlled. Inflation can be brought down, means costs of buying goods and services will be lesser. So this is wrong. Statement is wrong. So without budgetary backup also, central banks can bring down inflation. So statement 1 is ruled out, right? So the effects of monetary policy depend on the fiscal policies pursued by the government. So this is absolutely right. So effects of monetary policy, monetary policy means decreasing or increasing interest rates, and definitely if we increase or decrease interest rates, that has impact on fiscal policy of the government. What is fiscal policy? So when government increases tax rates or reduces tax rates, or whenever government controls or expedites spending, so that is all about fiscal policy. So monetary policy is definitely, monetary policy has a lot of impact on fiscal policy. So that is correct as per the passage. So the answer is B, which is true only, right? Now coming to the second question from the passage. So based on the above passage, the following assumptions have been made. Okay. So see, UPSC has this tendency of asking questions more on inferences, logical, rational inference. Definitely we'll see more of those questions. UPSC asks questions on crux of the passage. UPSC is asking questions on central idea of the passage, and definitely now we are looking at assumptions. So assumptions number 1: fiscal policies of the governments are solely responsible for higher prices. Okay, no, this is again wrong. So this time you see the trick of UPSC, they are playing around with the word called solely. So fiscal policy is not only responsible for higher prices. So fiscal policy is all about taxes and spending. But what is responsible for higher prices is interest rate. So monetary policy is responsible for higher prices. So interest rates reduction or increase is part of monetary policy. Fiscal policy talks about tax and government spending. So higher prices do not affect the long-term government bonds. Now see, again they are trying to confuse. So in this question, the author is not talking about whether higher prices are impacting government bonds or not. So higher prices might impact government bonds, but in this passage we are not concerning government bond. There is an indirect linkage, but definitely the passage, if it is not referring to government bonds and we have to strictly adhere to what is written in the passage, 2 is also ruled out. So 1 and 2 both are wrong in this case. So assumptions both are wrong. So answer is D, neither 1 nor 2. Okay. So moving to another passage, you can see on the screen we have questions from mathematics, but we are not discussing them right now. And we are coming to a passage on urban planning, right? So see, you see this passage 1. Today, if we consider cities such as New York, London, and Paris as some of the most iconic cities in the world, it is because plans carrying a heavy systems approach were imposed on their precincts. So precincts, basically, what is precincts? The backbone of the systems theory is the process of translating social, spatial, and cultural desirables into mathematical models using computing, statistics, optimization, and an algorithmic way of formulating and solving problems. So you see, they have explained it further. The backbone of the systems theory is the process of translating social, spatial, and cultural desirables into mathematical models. See, any kind of urban planning is based on mathematical models, and what goes in mathematical models is basically what we are talking about in this passage. The early universities of the West, which began to train professionals in planning, spawned some of the most indigenous planners who were experts in these domains. This was because these very subjects were absorbed into the planning curriculum that had its roots in the social sciences, geography, and architecture. No, so because these experts have knowledge of the domain, they are ingenious planners. Sorry, I said indigenous, but this is ingenious planners. And definitely the roots of their expertise lied in social sciences. Geography definitely is important, and architecture. So architecture is the science through which they are designing the ideas and converting them into real life objects in terms of buildings and high-rise buildings and skyscrapers. So last sentence, planning in India and its education differ from the West. So definitely yes, India has a different education system. Indian education system is more based on theory. Western education system is more based on practicality, right? So let us see at the question, most logical and rational inference we are talking about, right? So let's see. Curriculum for urban planning courses should have diverse and interdisciplinary approach, right? So definitely this looks okay as per the passage. So curriculum for urban planning should have diverse and interdisciplinary approach. So everywhere in the passage you see the backbone of system theory, which is line number 5. The backbone of the system theory is the process of translating social, spatial, and cultural desirables into mathematical models, right? And then the author is also talking about computing, statistics, optimization, and an algorithmic way of formulating and solving problems, right? So definitely this seems okay. Let us see, because we have to find the most logical. See, please understand this trick by UPSC, that definitely this option seems okay, but what we have to look in option B, C, and D, whether they are more logical, they sound more logical than option A. So let us have a look at that. So in India, city administration is under bureaucracy which lacks formal training in urban planning and management. So this is not okay, because the author is definitely not talking about this. So in India, there is no reference to India here, right? In the passage is generic, and passage is more about Western way of solving urban problems, right? So let us look at C and D. So you can see on the screen on the right hand side, India, the management of urban areas is local affair with a chronic problem of insufficient funds. So definitely again ruled out. See, in these type of statements, you can straight away rule out, because if the passage is not talking about specific Indian issues, and if the answer or the options are talking about India, then definitely without even going further for deep understanding of the statement, you can simply rule it out. Okay. So D, with high density of population and widespread poverty in our urban areas. So what is our urban areas? They're referring to India again. So again, it is ruled out because the passage is not about India. It's the Western approach of combining the traits, into resulting into ultimately mathematical models, which are the fundamental or which are the foundation of urban planning of Western world, not India. So this passage is not about India. So definitely A, which is the generic inference, curriculum for urban planning courses should have diverse and interdisciplinary approach, is the correct answer. Okay, so 11 answer is A. Now let us look at the second question from the passage. Again, the second question is about assumptions. You can see on the screen question number 12. So India needs a new generation of urban professionals with knowledge relevant to modern urban practice, right? So yes, India needs a new generation of urban professionals, and their knowledge should be relevant to modern urban practice. This we can assume because definitely last line you see, planning in India and its education differ from the best. So definitely there is some reference that further the author wants to talk about, that we should imbibe some of the techniques of Western world, some of the techniques of Western world. So author definitely gives a hint about India but does not talk in detail. So that's why we ruled out other options in question number 11 about India. But definitely assumption is that what is the reason for author to talk about the good practices adopted by Western world is that India can also adopt those practices by hiring urban professionals which have knowledge relevant to modern urban practice. Now what is modern urban practice here? Which is referring to the practices of the Western world, right? So statement 1 is correct. Number 2, Indian universities at present have no capacity or potential to impart training in systems approach. We don't know. We don't know this as per the passage. The author is not detailing about what Indian universities are capable of and what they are not capable of, because they are only the author is only referring to that planning in India is differing from the West, and definitely we can imbibe or we can inculcate some of the best practices of urban planning from the Western world. So 2 is ruled out, answer is 1 only. So question number 12, answer is 1 only. Okay. So moving to another passage. So this is a passage on internet. So not every voice on the internet commands the same kind of audience. Okay, definitely correct. This is a very generic thing. No, not every voice on the internet commands the same kind of audience. So simple, what it means is louder the voice, more is the audience. Less audible is the voice. The lesser will be the audience. Okay, so when anonymous private entities with high capital can pay for more space for their opinions, they are effectively buying a louder voice. Okay, so definitely more money pumped in the marketing, definitely those kind of people, investors or businesses will have a louder voice, means they will have more space on the internet for marketing their products. If political discourse in the digital sphere is a matter of outshining one's opponent till the election is won, then the quality of politics suffers. Definitely, अगर इंटरनेट पे ज़्यादा पैसे दे दिए इंस्टाग्राम फेसबुक पे या फिर किसी और प्लेटफॉर्म पे यूट्यूब पे, और उसी के वीडियोस बार बार they are running on those platforms and they are conveying the same kind of idea, definitely they will sound that political party will sound more dominant and more stronger compared to the opponent. So quality of politics will suffer because they are trying to increase their visibility by paying more money and getting more audience. The focus of social media is restricted to, it is on another page, the focus of social media is restricted to the promotion of content that generates more user engagement, regardless of how inflammatory the content may be. So this is very true. The focus of social media is promotion of that content that generates more user engagement. So these days it's a very funny thing on internet, which people say, particularly on YouTube. Shorter the video, the more irrelevant the video, the casual the video, without any knowledge being conveyed to the people, it gets more views because it is funny. And definitely, it is funny and it is attracting more audience because people are looking forward to the internet for entertainment, not knowledge, right? So we know that. So regardless of how inflammatory the content may be, so inflammatory means in the content is inflammatory, it is generating more audience because it has some controversial content, and those things are more getting to the users, and users are loving to watch those things. So definitely this passage is conveying the reality of present day internet and how users are basically responding to the content on the internet. So let us see the question: which one of the following statements best reflects the central idea of the passage? So, statement A: constructed as a marketplace of views, social media ensures instant access to information. Definitely okay. Social media ensures instant access to information, but it is not the central idea of the passage. Passage is talking about more money pumped in marketing in social media, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, the more the space that particular entity gets. So let us look at statement B. Social media are not ideal or moral institutions, but the products built by companies to make profits. Yes, okay. So this seems correct, but again, I don't think it is the central idea. Okay, so let us look at statement C. Social media have been created to strengthen democracies. No, this is exactly in contradiction to what is being talked about in the passage. So the passage is talking about degrading of democracy through social media, because people who are able to pump more money, they're able to get more voice on the internet. So definitely this does not strengthen democracy. So statement C is absolutely ruled out. Statement A and B are weaker. So let us look at D. In today's world, social media are inevitable. Definitely okay. So we cannot avoid. It is definitely existing and it will exist in the future. Social media are inevitable for well-informed social life. So, ठीक है. So definitely, statement D is more relevant here because it talks about that social media cannot be avoided, and definitely people who have good hold over more marketing space on social media, their voice is being heard by more people. And the last statement of the passage also talks about the fact that whether the video is audio or video which is shared on the internet is inflammatory or not, the promotion, the amount of promotion determines the user engagement, right? So definitely social media is inevitable and for well informed social life. So answer is D. 13 answer is D. D for Delhi. Question number 2 from the passage: based on the above passage, the assumptions. So number 1, internet is not inclusive enough. Internet is not inclusive enough. Okay, so this seems okay, because internet is not inclusive enough means that internet is there and it is promoting people, it is promoting views of those people more which have more power with money, and they are able to buy more voice, and more voice means their user engagement is higher. So that is not a very correct representation of the reality. So definitely internet is not inclusive enough. That is okay, and that is the correct assumption. Number 2, internet can adversely affect the quality of politics in a country. Definitely yes, and it is adversely means negatively, and it is negatively affecting because, as we can see from the passage itself, the central line of the passage, that the politicians or the political party which has more hold over internet space, they are able to have more voice, they are able to engage more users. So definitely it is a direct line from the passage that this affects the quality of politics. So 1 and 2 both are correct. So answer is C, both 1 and 2. Moving to another question. So another question is below 14 is about mathematics. We are not dealing with that, so we'll move to another page. So in this page, remaining of the questions are based on mathematics. So we go to another page, right? So it's about children, it's about school, it's about schooling. Okay, so let us look at the passage. So by the time children reach class 8, the bulk of them tend to be in the age range of 13 years to 15 years. Okay, definitely correct, no rocket science in this. But in our country, about a quarter of all children in class 8 struggle with reading simple text, and more than half are still unable to do basic arithmetic operations like division. So not funny, but for some people it might sound very funny, but this is the reality of India. Okay, so in class 8 also people are the children are struggling with basic foundational knowledge, right? So every year about 25 million young boys and girls from elementary school move into the life that lies for them beyond compulsory schooling. So definitely okay. So 25 million young boys and girls from elementary school move into a life which is beyond schooling. Okay, so this is another problem with India. This statement talks about dropout rates. So dropout rates are very high. So after elementary school, which is class 8, if the this is the number 25 million, if that much a number of boys and girls are moving out, that means they're dropping out from school. So definitely their skill set will be much lesser than the children who are able to continue school. So we'll read further. They cannot enter the workforce, at least in the organized sector, till they are 18. Okay, so obviously they have dropped out from school, but they cannot enter workforce until they are 18. So there is a gap of 3-4 years. So from elementary, let's assume the age is 13-14 years, and then until 18 they are not able to enter workforce. That means 4-5 years of gap, and also 4-5 years of no education. So problem with India, very good passage. The reality is being projected. For many families, these children expect that such graduates from school will go on to high school and college. Okay, hardly anyone wants to go back to agriculture. Definitely yes. On the other hand, abilities in terms of academic competencies are far lower than they should be, even based on curricular expectations of class 8. So definitely academic competencies will be lesser than what is expected from a class 8 student if this is the dropout rate in India. And also the knowledge imparted is more theoretical in India than practical. So this is one difference of India from the Western world. So Western world has more relevant, they teach more relevant skill set to school students, which is further utilizable in their future years in corporate sector or industries or any other domain in which they work. So practicality of education is more important for a developing economy. If the education is not practical, it is more theoretical, definitely more skill set has to be imparted to people to make them more relevant in the industry. Right. So let us look at question number 21. Okay. So following assumptions have been made. So what are the assumptions? Number one, for effective school education, parents have greater role than the governments. Okay. So is this passage talking about parents? So let us see. So passage does not talk about parents, but there is a slight hint. And see, one more thing I want to tell you, UPSC aspirants and people who have just given first attempt, or people who have given second or third attempt, they must be knowing it. Assumption. What is assumption? Assumption is something, some statement which is not explicitly mentioned in the passage, but definitely it has a implied undertone. Implied undertone meaning it has been implicitly conveyed by the author. It might not be direct. So if we talk about for effective school education, parents have greater role than the governments. Yes. Where? So the reference is given in middle of the passage, where we talk about every year about 25 million young boys and girls from elementary school move into the life that lies for them beyond compulsory schooling. So definitely it's a dropout. So dropout किसकी वजह से होता है? Dropout main reason is financial condition of the parents or the social attitude of the parents, where they don't want their child to study further. So definitely it's implied, it's hidden, it's implicit. Dropout has nothing to do with the government. Dropout rate of the students is increasing primarily because of the influence of the families, right? So statement 1 is an implied statement. It's an implied assumption. It is correct. Statement number 2, school curriculum that conforms to today's requirements and is uniform for the entire country may address the issues brought out, right? So school curriculum that conforms to today's requirements and is uniform for the entire country may address the issues brought out. So this is also correct. So what is today's requirements? Today's skill set. So what is the skill set which is more relevant for the industries? And if school curriculum is conforming to today's requirement, which is the industrial requirement, definitely it will be more effective and is uniform for the entire country, may address the issues brought out. So what is the issue being brought out? That there is a gap between theory and practicality of Indian education. So right. So statement 1 and 2 both are correct. So answer is, what is the answer? Both 1 and 2. Okay, answer is both 1 and 2. So let us move to question number 22. It is from the same passage. Okay, same passage. Just allow me 5 seconds. I'll just check for recording. I'll just cross check whether it's happening or not. All right, not a problem. So it's happening. All right. So question number 22. Which one of the following statements best reflects the central idea conveyed by the passage? Okay. So very easy passage. Let us see how UPSC is confusing us here. Total eradication of poverty in the country will resolve the issue of underperformance of our school children. Okay. Underperformance of our school children. So total eradication of poverty in the country will resolve. So they are linking poverty reduction with underperformance of our school children. Okay, how it is linked? Definitely there is some link as in, if 25 million young boys and girls do not opt out from elementary stage and they move into another life beyond schooling, so definitely somewhere it is linked to poverty. But let us look at other statements and we'll see that other statements are better capturing the central idea or not. So statement B, monetary incentives to parents and teachers, the strategy to improve the children's academic performance. No, it is not the strategy to improve the children's academic performance, because it is not only monetary incentives, it is also the social attitude of the parents which will be important here. Both parents and teachers have a big influence. So just providing them incentives does not mean that they will educate their children more. They might use the money given by the government in other kind of activities, right? So statement B is not correct. Statement C, public policy should ensure that competencies and achievements of young people are aligned with their expectations. Okay, so okay, this seems okay. Public policy should ensure that competencies and achievements of young people are aligned with their expectations. This looks okay, but let us see. So see, when we talk about central idea, so in this passage we are more talking about that lack of academic competencies. How do they result? They result because, in India the class 8 student is struggling with basic fundamentals. 25 million people or children are opting out of elementary school stage, so definitely there is a problem, right? Number D, India is not going to take advantage of the demographic dividend unless some school pass outs go back to agriculture. So see, another statement, there's an example that it is irrelevant to the passage. So nowhere we are talking about demographic dividend, but definitely demographic dividend has an indirect implication from the passage. So what is demographic dividend? So it is the occurrence of more number of young people in the population, and more number of young people means, more will be the human resource productivity. So what statement is talking about, India is not going to take advantage of the young people. So I'm giving you an alternative, young population, unless some school pass outs go back to college. So this is absolutely wrong. Even if it is generalized, the statement is wrong. So unless some school pass outs, if school pass outs go back to agriculture, will India take advantage of young population? Answer is no. Young population will be advantageous to India if they are put into higher input output jobs. Means lesser input, more output, means lesser input in terms of effort and money and more output in terms of revenue. So this is also ruled out. So see, it's a very confusing options which UPSC has given, and as per my personal opinion, none of the statements are the extreme, the most correct central idea. But you see, only option A stands out. Option A seems more correct than others, because total eradication of poverty in the country, that definitely, if poverty is completely eliminated from the country, it will resolve the issue of underperformance, right? So if there is no poverty, if the parents are not struggling financially, then definitely the school children performance will go up, right? So that is okay. So answer is, as per the passage, statement A. Okay, so statement A is the answer for 22 number question. Moving to another passage. So this passage, just hold on. This passage is based on science. Okay, so we take it for granted now that science has a social responsibility. Okay, so okay, definitely yes. Science is the foundational block of the world. The idea would not have occurred to Newton or Galileo. They thought of science as an account of the world as it is, and the only responsibility that they acknowledged was to tell the truth. Okay? So they wanted to let know the people about the basics of science, basically, right? So the idea that science is a social enterprise is modern, and it begins at the Industrial Revolution. So, okay, so the basic application of science in the world began from the later part of 18th century in 1787 around with the Industrial Revolution. Okay, so social enterprise means if the science is applied, definitely it becomes a social utility. If science is applied and science becomes technology, definitely it is helping people grow. So it is basically for the benefit of the society, for the benefit of the people. We are surprised that we cannot trace social we cannot trace a social further back, because we nursed the confusion that the industrial revolution ended golden age. Okay, so okay, let us look at the question. So which one of the following statements best reflects the thinking of the author about the science? Okay, so statement A: science must value the commitment of the scientist. So definitely this is okay. Generically, in general sense, it is okay, but this is not what the thought of the author is. Okay, so statement: science is a product of civilized society and must be used for promotion of scientific awareness in people. So science is a product of civilized society, okay, and it should be used for promotion of scientific awareness, but this does not exactly again reflect the thinking of the author. Industrial revolution was made possible by the advancement in science. This is also a correct statement, generically correct, logically and theoretically correct, and this is the reality, but again, not the thinking, right? Science must pursue truth, but be responsible for social welfare. Yes. So option D is the right answer. I'll tell you how. If you look at the passage, so science must pursue the truth. So you see, when the passage is talking about Newton or Galileo, so they thought of science as an account of the world as it is. You see the fourth line, and the only responsibility that they acknowledged was to tell the truth. So definitely, initially, science was about telling the truth. The idea that science is a social enterprise modern, it only happened at the inception, at the beginning, when industrial revolution began in the world. So it became a social enterprise. So we are surprised that we cannot trace a social further stance further back, because we nurse the confusion that the industrial revolution ended golden age. Okay, so definitely science must pursue the truth but be responsible for social welfare. So this is about the balance. So the passage is about the balance from the science. So science at the same time should preach or should talk about the truth, and at the same time, should be responsible for social welfare. So option D is the right answer. Now let us go to the another passage. So yes, page number 17 of set C. So we are almost done, 6 passages. We'll move to the 7th one, right? So passage 1: the history of science is the real history of mankind. Okay, so definitely science has again, the author is talking about more importance of science, which is the real history of mankind. In this striking epigram, a 19th century writer links science with its background. Okay, Now, see, another thing I'll tell you, whenever you begin with the passage, do make sure that you're reading the first few lines very carefully because that sets the tone for the passage. Like most epigrams, its power lies in emphasizing by contrast an aspect of truth which may be easily overlooked. Okay, so whose power? Science power lies in emphasizing by contrast an aspect of truth which may be easily overlooked. Okay, in this case, so what is being overlooked? In this case, it is easy to overlook the relations between science and mankind and to treat the former as some abstract third party which can sometimes be praised for its beneficial influences. Okay, and but frequently and conveniently blamed for the horrors of war. So definitely, science has its benefits. It has good influence on the people, the society, and at the same time, science is definitely blamed for horrors of war. So basic reference is being given. Let us give an example about nuclear weapons. So definitely, nuclear weapons are the most astonishing and the most advanced invention of science. So definitely, but nuclear weapons are dangerous. If one country fires nuclear weapons on another country, there could be world war because every country is backed by a group of countries, right? So definitely, science has its benefits. Science has its disadvantages also. Science and reading further. Science and mankind cannot be divorced from time to time at men's convenience, right? So this is also correct. Yet we have seen that in spite of countless opportunities of improvement, the opening years of the present period of civilization have been dominated by international conflict. Okay, so definitely people across the world belonging to different countries have got opportunities to improve, move beyond wars, but our international conflict seems to rise every year. So is this the inevitable result of the progress? So author is asking, is this the inevitable result of the progress of science, or does the fault lie elsewhere? Okay, so whenever the passage is ending with a question mark, so this kind of passage is interrogative in nature. So this kind of passage always ends with a corollary. So definitely UPSC must ask in this passage a corollary. So what is a corollary? Which UPSC has asked in last 5 years also many times. So corollary is a logical statement which ends the passage logically, right? So it gives a logical ending to the passage. But here we don't have to find out corollary. So let's see what the question is. Which of the following are or is emphatically means with confidence conveyed by the author of the passage, right? So let us see. So what is author conveying confidently? So statement 1, without science mankind could not have continued to exist till today. Okay, so definitely yes. So that the statement 1 is talking about the importance of science. So definitely, but this is not what is being conveyed by the passage. So what is the passage all about? Passage is all about that science provides benefits. It is also responsible for some negatives like war. But despite our improvement, despite many opportunities over the years, the civilization still is being dominated by international conflict. So without science, so this statement 1 does not go with the central idea of the passage. So we'll just take hold and we'll look at statement 2. It is the science that will ultimately determine the destiny of mankind. So this is absolutely correct. So that's why the author has ended with the question mark at the last. Is this the inevitable result of the progress of science, or does the fault lie elsewhere? So definitely, if science is responsible for benefits to the society, it is responsible for the negatives also. So definitely it is determining the destiny of mankind. So answer is B, which is 2 only. 1 is ruled out because here we are not talking about existence. So mankind certainly would have existed without science. So statement 1 is wrong. Another reason is definitely it would have existed. The humans might have lived in primitive world. So without science, mankind could not have continued to exist is absolutely wrong in a generic way also. But statement 2 is aligning with the passage as well. It is correct also, and it is aligning with the passage as well. So destiny of mankind is determined by science because science has become dominant now. All right. So moving to another passage on the same page. Only with long experience and opening of his wares on many a beach where his language is not spoken, will the merchant come to know the worth of what he carries, and what is parochial and what is universal in his choice. So parochial is more denoting towards narrowness, and universal is more denoting towards increasing broad. A person's thought process becoming broader. So this is a philosophical passage. Let us read further. Such delicate goods as justice, love and honor, courtesy, and indeed all the things we care for are valid everywhere, but they are variously molded and often differently handled. Okay? And sometimes nearly unrecognizable if you meet them in a foreign land. So definitely correct. So the values or virtues like justice, love, honor, courtesy, it means different to different people. Let us read further. And the art of learning fundamental common values is perhaps the greatest gain of travel to those who wish to live at ease among their fellows. So definitely the last line is talking about the art of learning fundamental common values is the greatest gain of travel. So more fundamental a person remains in life, the person remains more confident among the people around the people around the society. So better than other people in the society if the person has learned well the fundamental common values. So let us look at question number 33. When we meet other people while we travel, we learn to differentiate between. Okay, so let us look at the option. Imagination and understanding, option A. Communities and nationalities, option B. Local values and universal values, option C. And friends and foods. Okay, so see, uh, you see from the passage, if you see in the middle of the passage, such delicate goods as justice, love and honor, courtesy, and indeed all the things we care for are valid everywhere, but they are variously molded and often differently handled, and sometimes nearly unrecognizable if you meet them in a foreign land. Okay, and the art of learning fundamental common values is perhaps the greatest gain of travel to those who wish to live at ease among their fellows. So what is the important, or what is the important phrase here, which we should focus on? Fundamental common values. Okay, so basically a is ruled out, imagination and understanding. No, the author is not talking about that. That the person who travels more will reduce the gap between imagination and understanding. Author is talking about option C, local values and universal values. Why? So where is the reference? So virtues like justice, love and honor, courtesy, they mean different for different people, and only when we travel more we tend to realize that what love means for a person living in area A or a person living in area B. Love, honor, courtesy, justice could be different for different people because they hail from different cultures, they hail from different conditioning. So that's why the answer is C, local values and universal values. Okay, so let us move to another passage. So page number 15 has more questions from mathematics. So we'll look for another passage here. All right. So this passage in set C on page number 21. Okay. Let us see what this passage is all about. Conventional classrooms, by emphasizing fixed duration over learning effectiveness, resign themselves to variable outcomes. Okay, so definitely it is, the passage seems to be on conventional way of teaching, where the focus is more on duration of classes than the effectiveness of learning. So variable outcomes. So definitely variable outcomes तो होगा ही होगा, because conventional classrooms are focusing on duration rather than understanding of students coming from different background. For every student the outcome will be different, right? The tyranny of the classroom is that every learner is subjected to the same set of lectures in the same way for the same duration. So definitely yes, and the students are from different background, they might not respond well to such static kind of teaching. In the end, a few learners shine, some survive, and the rest are left behind. Definitely, again, the reality of India. Okay, so a few learners shine, some survive, and the rest are left behind because the teacher is not focusing on the student. Teacher is focusing on to end the class in a specified duration. After the fixed duration, the classroom model moves on with not a thought spared for those left behind. Definitely yes, who cares? So no care attitude in India. And definitely the pedagogy and the pedagogy administration in India, which is the teaching administration of India, is currently poor. The teachers are more caring about what they get at the end of the month in the terms of salary, rather than providing value to maximum students where their careers can be enriched. So that is not the focus. Focus is on individual benefit, right? So this is how, let us read further. This is how we end up with 10% employability in our graduates after a decade and half of formal education. Again, a reality. Definitely, if many people are left behind, they're not able to understand what is taught in the class, a smaller percentage will be able to have higher employability. Repeating the same ineffectual script in the realm of skill education will not produce different results. So definitely this is a warning from the author that if we repeat conventional kind of teaching in skill education, in imparting skill education, the results will be the same. Definitely only a small proportion of people will be able to become successful, and the majority will again fail. So it's a warning from the author that let us not repeat our conventional approach of teaching into imparting of skill set required for corporates and industries, right? Let us see the question. So which of the following statements best reflects the most logical and rational inference? So UPSC is repeating most logical and rational again and again. Logical means backed by concept, backed by some concept which has some fundamental roots in practicality as well. Rational means a correct inference. So let us see. Statement 1. In conventional classroom learning, the central goal is duration of learning rather than attainment of competency. So this seems okay. Yes. So definitely in conventional classroom, the goal is duration of teaching rather than attainment of competency. So let us we have a look at what the author is asking. The author is asking about the correct inferences, right? Number two, conventional classrooms encourage one size fits all approach and stamp out all differentiation. Okay, so again, conventional classrooms encourage one size fits all approach, so that is a correct thing. So that is what the author is talking about, that only one style of teaching which is focusing on duration of the class is encouraging, is not very good for Indian education system. So conventional classrooms encourage one size fits all approach and stamp out all differentiation. So definitely conventional type of teaching, it does not consider differences among students, that all students are now not able to imbibe the kind of teaching which is focusing on duration, and every student is not able to benefit, right? So let us look at statement 1 again. In conventional classroom learning, the central goal is duration of learning rather than attainment of competency. Okay. So you see from the first line, conventional classrooms, by emphasizing fixed duration over learning effectiveness, resign themselves to variable outcomes. So what is the emphasis of conventional classroom teaching? The emphasis is on fixed duration. So this is okay. So the central goal is duration of learning and rather than attainment of competency. Statement 1 is correct. Statement 2 is also correct because conventional classrooms encourage one size fits all approach and stamp out all differentiation. So answer is very simple. C, both 1 and 2. Okay, both 1 and 2. Question number 42. Based on the above passage, the following assumptions have been made. So repeatedly UPSC is focusing on assumptions. So same passage. Let us see what the assumptions the author is talking about. As a large number of workers in our country are employed in unorganized sector, India does not need to change its present conventional classroom system of education. So this is a derogatory statement. This is a negative statement. If so, as per current statistics, nearly 95% of labor force in India is employed in unorganized sector. So, if they are employed in an unorganized sector, definitely conventional classroom system of education has to be changed. So, if more people in unorganized sector, and if we don't change the conventional classroom style of teaching, again the outcome in the future will also be the same, that few will shine as students in the future and majority will be left out. They will be not successful, they'll be failures in their work career. So definitely the derogatory statement, so we cannot even give a reference to the passage. The statement is not the assumption. Rather, the assumption is the author is positive. Author is talking about that we should have more better way of teaching where skill education is not conventionally taught to the students. Skill education has to be taught in a manner where majority of the people benefit. So statement 1 is ruled out. Statement 2, even with its present conventional classroom system of education, India produces sufficient number of skilled workers to fully realize the benefits of demographic dividend. So this is also in contradiction to what author is saying. Author is saying that only 10% people who have gone through conventional approach of education are able to have good employability. And here the statement is saying that even with present conventional system of education, India produces sufficient number of skilled workers. This is wrong. This statement is in contradiction to what author is saying. Author is saying exactly the opposite. This statement is saying the opposite, that despite conventional system, India is producing sufficient number of skilled workers. This is wrong. India is not producing sufficient number of skilled workers. So both statements are ruled out. Answer is option D, neither 1 nor 2. So the answer to this question, which is question number 42, is D, neither 1 nor 2. Moving to another passage, it's about adolescence and child. Let's see. When a child reaches adolescence, there is apt to be a conflict between the parents and the child, since the latter considers himself to be now quite capable of managing his own affairs, while the former are filled with parental solicitude, which is often a disguise for love of power. So, parents are filled with care for their child, and the child, when grows older, the child thinks that the child is quite capable of managing his own affairs. Okay, reading further. So, parents consider usually that. So, solicitude word here means care, parental care. Parents consider usually that the various moral problems which arise in adolescence are peculiarly their province. Obviously, parents think that they have gone through the same kind of problems when they were a child. So they think that it is their province because they have more experience. The options they express, however, are so dogmatic that the young seldom confide in them and usually go their own way in secret. Okay, so dogmatic here means undeniably true. Undeniably true. So the options they express here means the last line you see on page 21. Options they express means the options which parents express, however, are so undeniably true. Dogmatic means undeniably true, that the young seldom confides in them and usually go their own way in secret. So definitely yes. So parents, if they start imposing their own ideas, the young will not be able to feel aligned to that idea and will go his or her own way in secret. So this is a story of 95% children in India, but not the story of everyone. So again, we have to see that what the question is being asked by the author, and let's see what assumptions are valid in this case. Okay, so statement 1, the adolescent does not feel comfortable with his parents because they tend to be dominating and assertive. So is it about feeling comfortable? The passage is not about feeling comfortable. The passage is about the child choosing his own way when the parents are imposing their own irrelevant experience on the child, because the parents experience is different because their timeline was different when they were child. They are not child in the present time. So definitely it's more about the misalignment between the feeling of the child and the parents. So and the passage is not talking about being dominating and assertive. The passage is talking about that the parents are providing those kind of inputs which they think is their own territory, because they have also been a child and they can control and understand the feelings of the child. So the passage is little different. Statement 1 is little different here. So statement 2, the adolescent of modern times does not have much respect for parents. Okay, so no, this is again not as per the passage. The assumption is not correct. So adolescent does not have much respect is not what the author is talking about. The author is talking about that parents have different understanding of a child's issues or a child's current scenario, and they will advise differently, and the child will not feel aligned with what the parents are advising, so the child will go it's his or her own way. So nothing to do with respect. Both statements are incorrect. Neither one nor two. Okay, is the right answer. 43 option is D. D for Delhi. Question 44. Which one of the following statements best reflects the central idea? Okay. So parents in general may not be of much help when children are on their way to becoming adults. Okay, so yes, in the modern times, this is the scenario. Yes, they may not be of much help when children are on their own to on their way to becoming adults. So option A seems okay, but see, we have to find that central idea from the statement which is the best from the rest. So best from the rest, the statement A could be correct, statement B could be correct, C and D could be correct, but we have to find which aligns most with the passage. Statement B. When children reach adolescence, involvement of parents in their lives is unnecessary. No, no, no. This is an extreme statement, and extreme statements in UPSC you have to be very careful. And you see, it is not unnecessary. When children reach adolescence, involvement of parents could be regulated, but it is not unnecessary, right? Modern day nuclear families are not capable of bringing up children properly. No, again, this is not what the author is talking about in the passage. So this could be correct in a generic way, and also it's a debatable thing. Modern day nuclear families are not capable, so it is not proven that joint families children are more successful. No, it is not correct. So this is a factually wrong statement without evidence and not even linked to the passage. Of statement D, in modern societies, adolescents tend to be stubborn, disobedient, and careless. This is again an extreme statement, negative statement. It is not the case. Author is not talking about adolescents becoming stubborn or disobedient or careless. So the author is just talking about that when parents' views on certain issues of the child are not aligned with the feelings of the child, they just go their own way in secret. That has nothing to do with a child becoming stubborn or disobedient or careless. So statement A is the right answer, and it reflects the central idea very well. Parents in general may not be of much help when children are children are on their way to becoming adults, right? So may not be. So may not be is the key here, the key phrase here, because may or may not be the role of the parents. So some parents could be of help who understand the feelings of the child in relevance with the present time, and some parents may not be of much help when children become adults. So statement A is the best form of capturing the central idea of the passage. So 44 answer is A. Now going to another passage. So remaining of the questions on this passage are related to mathematics. So we'll go to another page. Okay. So very small passage. When an international team of scientists pumped a carbon dioxide and water mix into underground basalt rocks, basic chemistry took over. The acidic mixture dissolved rocks, calcium, magnesium, and formed limestone. Basically, carbon dioxide is converted into stone, exclaimed the scientist. So see, always one tip I want to give you here on your screen. You can see this passage, small passage, but small passages have powerful last lines. So if you focus more on the last lines, you see how the author is ending. They will give you a good hint about the correct answer, right? So let us look. 51. Which one of the following statements best reflect the most logical, rational, and practical suggestion implied by the passage? So statement A, it is a cheap and practical method to produce limestone at commercial level for building purposes. So this is not the exact suggestion, because the author is not referring to some cheap and practical method to produce limestone. Let us look at option B. The author is simply talking about the impact of carbon dioxide and water mix into when the carbon dioxide and water are inserted into basalt rock. So that kind of mixture becomes acidic and it forms limestone. Okay, let us see option B. This can be used as one of the methods of carbon sequestration. Okay, so no. So there is no reference to carbon sequestration. Definitely yes. The author is talking about a mixture of carbon dioxide and water resulting into formation of limestone. But this is not a direct way of saying that this is a method of carbon sequestration. Number C. Basalt rock can be made a good source of calcium and magnesium minerals by this method. No, again, this is irrelevant, because the final product is not calcium and magnesium. The final product here in this case is limestone. Okay, limestone. Number D, good rock dissolving acid can be produced by mixing carbon dioxide and water. So this seems okay. So option D seems okay here, because if you see the lines from the passage, so what carbon dioxide and water is doing, carbon dioxide and water is resulting into an acidic mixture. So carbon dioxide and water, when inserted into underground basaltic rocks, result into acidic mixture, which ultimately gives out limestone. Okay, so out of A, B, C and D, only D is a correct statement, which is a practical and most logical suggestion implied by the passage, right? So answer is D. So question number 51, correct answer is D. Another passage, a small one here. Geographers analyzed 175 satellite images of ocean color, which is an indicator of phytoplankton productivity at the ocean surface, and found that giant icebergs are responsible for storing up to 20% of carbon in the southern ocean. So research fact is given by this passage. So after analysis of 175 satellite images of ocean color, phytoplankton productivity is being assessed, and found that icebergs contain up to 20% of carbon in the southern ocean, right? The researcher discovered that melting water from giant icebergs, which contains iron and other nutrients, supports hitherto unexpectedly high levels of phytoplankton growth. Okay. Based on the above passage, the following assumptions have been made. Okay, following assumptions have been made. Giant icebergs have a bearing on primary productivity and food chains in southern ocean. Okay, food chains in southern ocean. Okay, so it is correct, and giant icebergs have a bearing on primary productivity and food chains of southern ocean, because giant icebergs are containing iron and other nutrients. Okay, iron and other nutrients, which supports unexpectedly high levels of phytoplankton growth. Okay, so that is okay. And you see, number 2 statement, melting of giant icebergs can produce climate change effects, and impact world fisheries. Okay, so climate change effects, why the author is talking about this climate change effects? Because the reference is being given in the above passage to, the reference is being given to carbon dioxide, which is contained in giant icebergs. So obviously, if giant icebergs are containing a lot of carbon, definitely it will have impact produced on climate change effects. And more the carbon and more impact will be on world fisheries. So definitely, statement two also seems correct assumption. Okay, so one and two both are correct. So answer is very very simple. To question number 52, the answer is C, which is both one and two. Which is both one and two. Moving to another passage. Evolution has endowed caterpillars that feed on corn with a unique ability. They can induce the plant to turn off its defense against insect predators. Okay, so definitely caterpillars have a negative impact on plants because the plant's defense is compromised because of caterpillars' ability. This helps caterpillars to eat more and grow faster. The agent that causes this effect is the caterpillar's faces or straws. The find could throw new light on compounds associated with plant response to pathogens like fungi or bacteria. So what are pathogens? Pathogens are some agents which carry some kind of infection. So in this case they are referring to fungi or bacteria. So basically this caterpillar's behavior is a find which could throw new light on compounds associated with plant response. Okay, so compounds which are able to generate plant response, you know uh, uh, can be studied well with this behavior of caterpillars. So let us look at the question. Question number 53. So which one of the following statements best reflect the most logical, rational, practical message conveyed by the passage? So option A: farmers can use caterpillars to feed on weeds in their crop fields, plantations. So what are weeds? Weeds are plants which grow along with the crops, but weeds are generally parasites. They feed on other plants, and they are not desirable to be growing in the fields where agricultural crops are growing. So definitely farmers can be used the farmers can use caterpillars to feed on weeds. But let us see other statements here, because we have to find the most logical, rational and practical message. This finding can help in the development of clinically useful antimicrobial compound. So okay, so definitely this finding can be useful later on for a research purpose. Number C: this finding can help in the development of organic, ecologically sustainable pesticides. Okay, organic, ecologically sustainable pesticides. So yes, it can be useful because here we have been able to find out the behavior of caterpillars and how they compromise the plant's defense. Number D: caterpillars can be genetically modified to be predators of other plant pests. Okay, so definitely yes, if caterpillars have they are able to release an agent which is able to compromise the plant's ability, and the plant's defense is being compromised. Definitely the caterpillars can be genetically modified to be predators of other plant pests. So this seems more positive, because number A statement, farmers can use caterpillars to feed on weeds. This definitely can be the case, but passage is not talking about this. Passage is more about the behavior of caterpillars and how they compromise a plant's defense against pests or insect predators. This helps caterpillars to eat more and grow faster. The agent that causes this effect is the caterpillar's excreta or the faces. The find could throw new light on compounds associated with plant response to pathogens. Okay, so see, this is a confusing. I agree myself. This is not very straightforward, for students also. But you see, statement one is wrong because farmers can use caterpillars to feed on weeds. That is not what the author is trying to convey. If you see the last line, the focus is on the find could throw new light on compounds associated with plant response. Plant responds to what? Pathogens like fungi or bacteria. So new light on compounds. So this line is aligning well with option B. What is option B? This finding can help in the development of clinically useful antimicrobial compounds. Okay. And option C also. This finding can help in the development of organic, ecologically sustainable pesticides. So more than antimicrobial compounds, this behavior of caterpillar will be very useful in the development of organic, ecologically sustainable pesticides. Okay, so the compounds which is being referred to by the author in the last line is aligning well with option C. So option C is the right answer for question 53. Okay, so we'll move to another passage. So questions on the subsequent pages, the two subsequent pages are basically about mental ability and logical reasoning. So question number 61, the passage is, in a robust democracy, reality, howsoever inconvenient it may be, finds its expression both in the speech of political leaders and other social forms of assertion. Okay, so in a robust democracy, reality, howsoever inconvenient, find its expression both in the speech of political leaders and the other social forms of assertion. The existence of the real has to be transparent, both through its circulation in and by the media as well as its argumentative articulation in deliberative democracy. So the existence of the real has to be transparent. Yes, the real thing should be conveyed both through by the circulation by the media as well as its argumentative articulation in deliberative democracy. So deliberative democracy is a democracy which focuses on positive outcomes. It focuses on more on the quality of the people and less on the administration, less on the complexities of administration. It focuses on more positive and developmental achievements by the society. Okay, a normatively responsible media, through its communication effect, has the responsibility to circulate the content of reality without distortion. Okay, so definitely a responsible media will circulate the real news. It will not distort reality. So let us see what the author is asking. Author is asking about the crux of the above passage. So option A, responsible media should not distort the real in an ideal democracy. So definitely, this is the last line. Let us look at the other statements here. No, fake news seems inherent in the life of an ideal democracy. No, fake news is not inherent. It is a thing which is conveyed by the author, that the existence of the real has to be transparent. Has to be transparent both through circulation by the media as well as its argumentative articulation, deliberative democracy. So fake news seems inherent is not right as per the passage. Option C, there should not be any kind of restriction on the freedom of expression in an ideal democracy. No, so yes, there should not be restriction, but here the author is not talking about whether there should be restriction on freedom of expression or not. The author is talking about that whatever is real should be communicated effectively in its real sense. Number D, irresponsible media and political leaders cannot be effectively controlled in an ideal democracy. Okay, so definitely this is also correct, that irresponsible media and political leaders cannot be effectively controlled. But is this the crux of the passage? The answer is no. Irresponsible media and political leaders cannot be effectively controlled in an ideal democracy. Yes, but this is not what author is talking about. Okay. What is the answer? So responsible, look at option A again. Responsible media should not distort the real in an ideal democracy. Okay. So why this is the crux of the passage? Because you see from the middle of the passage itself, the existence of the real has to be transparent both through its circulation in and by the media as well as its argumentative articulation in deliberative democracy. And also the author is emphasizing again that responsible media through its communication effect has the responsibility to circulate the content of reality without distortion. Okay, so definitely option A is the right crux. 61 answer is A. 62, Okay, so passage for question 62, passage is different. So nowadays, there is a growing trend to use interconnected home devices. As consumers increasingly network their homes, the connected home device manufacturers and service providers will seek to overcome thin profit margins by gathering more of our personal data with or without our agreement, turning the home into a corporate storefront. Okay, so definitely more profit margins can be made by manufacturers of home devices if they have our personal data, if they know what we like. Corporate marketers will have powerful incentives to observe consumer behavior to understand the buying needs and preferences of the device owners. So corporate marketers will have powerful incentives definitely when they observe consumer behavior keenly and when they understand the buying needs and preferences of the device owners. Let's look at what the question is. Most logical, rational, practical message. So knowledge of consumer behavior leads to more capital expenditure in manufacturing sector. Okay, so yes, if the knowledge of consumer behavior is more, so more capital expenditure will go in manufacturing sector, because more the learning of consumer behavior, more variety of home devices can be produced. Okay, so let us look at option B, whether it is aligning well. Knowledge of consumer behavior stimulates growth of commerce and trade and thus helps in the overall economic development of the country. So this statement also seems correct, but this seems more correct in a generic way. Why in a generic way? Because yes, knowledge of consumer behavior will stimulate commerce and trade. It will help in the economic development of the country, but the passage is not about economic development of the country. The passage is about how profit margins can be made by corporate marketers if they observe consumer behavior more keenly. And the passage is more about home devices. It is not a generic passage on economic development. Interconnected devices, option C, interconnected devices give a lot of comfort to home users and improve the overall quality of life. So again, the passage is not talking about improvement of quality of life. Option D, interconnected devices can be at security risk and home users may have privacy risk. Yes, so this is the right answer, because option D talks about security risk and home users may have privacy risk as well. Because if corporate manufacturers, if they have access to more personal data, just because they want to improve on the quality of products they are manufacturing, definitely this personal data will compromise the privacy of the consumer. So definitely option D remains a more relevant statement, which is aligning well with the passage. Rest of the statements seem very generic, and option C, which is talking about quality of life, is out of context. So there is no reference to quality of life. There is no reference to overall economic development of the country. There is no reference to capital expenditure. Definitely, yes, option A is generically, again, in a general way, correct statement, but option D is more relevant because it talks about the consumers having more privacy risk, because only the way the home devices quality and home devices companies can make more profit is by accessing personal data, and this personal data certainly can compromise on privacy of the people, right? So answer is D. Another passage. So we are at the fag end now, so only 2-3 passages remaining. So green growth involves rethinking growth strategies with regard to the impacts on environmental sustainability and the environmental resources available to poor and vulnerable groups. Okay, so green growth means growth which is focusing on preserving environment, preserving the natural resources, and maximizing the growth. So without compromising on natural resources, if we can achieve economic growth, that is the best. But here, what they're talking about is green growth involves rethinking growth strategy with regard to impacts on environment, definitely, and also they're talking about environmental resources available to poor and vulnerable groups. Okay, so in rethinking growth, we need to focus on the current reality of a resource constrained world. Okay, so definitely the world is resource constrained. Every kind of resource like coal, iron ore are available in limited quantities. Resource intensive and in particular energy intensive processes will need to make way for more efficient and resource frugal development strategies if we are to avoid an economic dead end or a world in which only a small elite is able to enjoy affluence in the midst of a sea of poverty. Okay, so definitely yes. So last line is a very good advice by the author, that resource intensive means industries which are dependent on resources will consume more resources, and in particular energy intensive processes means the processes in industries which require more energy will drain more power, will require more electricity to be produced. So these kind of processes need to make way for more better strategies and resource efficient strategies if you are to avoid economic dead end, because resources are finite and if they are consumed very swiftly and very rapidly, it can lead to economic dead end. And in the economic dead end, more people will be under poverty and less people will be able to enjoy affluence. So let us see what the passage, the question is crux. So option A. So option A talks about environmental sustainability is inimical to our objective of achieving a high rate of GDP growth. So this seems okay. This seems correct that yes, environmental sustainability will lead to high rate of GDP growth. But again, this is not what author is talking about here. Author is more focusing on resource efficiency, right? So let us see. And high rate of GDP growth is not what is the outcome. Author is more concerned about the fact that if we are more resource efficient, we can reduce poverty. We can, because in the beginning of the passage you saw, there's a reference to that green growth is not only environmental sustainability, it is also about requirements of resources by poor people. So if we are more resource efficient, we can reduce poverty and there'll be a good distribution of income among the people. So again, high rate of GDP growth is incorrect as per the passage. Number B, poverty eradication is not responsible without a rapid economic growth and the consequent environmental degradation. So this is a negative statement. This is what author is not talking about. This is contradictory. So poverty eradication is definitely possible without rapid economic growth and the consequent environmental degradation. So definitely that is what is the passage all about. Passage is all about green growth. So green growth is what? Green growth is where economic growth is also there and there is a concern and care about the environment also. So option B is ruled out. Maintaining high environmental standards is now a prerequisite for achieving a steady, sufficient and inclusive growth. This is the right answer. No, why? Because environmental standards are high, meaning we are more focusing on resource efficiency and it will lead to a sufficient, steady and inclusive. So word inclusive is giving you a hint to the right answer. Inclusive means we are also focusing on the needs and requirements of poor people as well. So environment should be cared for and economic growth should be achieved, and at the same time we should be able to be focusing on the distribution of income among maximum people, and not only few people are able to enjoy wealth and rest of the people are under poverty. So statement C is most correct till now. Let us read statement D. With large populations, rampant poverty and limited resources of today's world, environmental degradation cannot be prevented and inequalities are inevitable. Again, a negative statement. So this statement is focusing on negativity of the world. So large population, more poverty, limited resource, it does not mean that we cannot prevent environmental degradation. We can definitely prevent environmental degradation by focusing on environment and focusing on a inclusive growth strategy. So option C is the right answer for question number 63, right? So another passage. So few questions after question 63 are focusing on mental ability and logical reasoning. So we shall move to nearly the fag end of the paper. So we are about to complete the paper. So we are now at question number 71. Okay. So unlike religion and science, poetry does not posit or expect any belief in absolute truths. Okay. Those forces or individuals who claim to have absolute truths in their grasp tend to turn dictatorial and tyrannical. So dictatorial, again, a negative way of dominating the people. It's all about centralization of power. Tyrannical means it's a cruelty. So those forces or individuals who claim to have absolute truths in their grasp tend to turn dictatorial and tyrannical, right? Truth usually does not admit any contradictions or imperfections. So truth usually does not admit any contradictions or imperfections. See, it is the correct way of saying truth is truth. Truth is neither contradictory nor it is talking about any kind of imperfection. So it is unitarian. So truth is unitarian means truth is complete in itself. It is therefore not of much use for poetry. Okay, so poetry abides by the plurality of life and existence. So poetry does throw light on different aspects of life, emotions of life, feelings of life, practicality of life, past, present, and future. Everything can be captured by poetry. Perhaps poetry follows reality, which is plural, anachronistic, full of contradictions. So as I said, poetry can capture past, present, future, and poetry can throw light on those events also which are beyond the present time, right? So against the tyranny of truth, poetry remains a partisan of democratic reality. Okay, so poetry is more inclusive. Poetry can talk about events and other timelines also. So against the arrogance of power, wealth, and hierarchy, poetry proposes both humility and defiance. Okay, so definitely poetry is beyond religion, poetry is beyond science, and poetry is more inclusive. So let us see what author is asking. Which of one of the following statements best reflects the most logical and rational message conveyed by the above passage? So option A. It is the poetry, not science or religion, which recognizes and accepts imperfections in humans. So this seems okay because the last line talks about the fact that poetry proposes both humility and defiance. So humility means that as a humane person, we are able to accept imperfections in humans, but religion or science does not acknowledge or address to imperfections or contradictions. So this seems okay. Let us see statement B. Truth is revealed through science or religion, and poetry is anathema to truth. Okay, so slightly different from truth. This also seems okay. Option C. Poetry is romantic, imaginary, and is about feeling, whereas science and religion are about truth. Okay, so nowhere in the passage author is talking about poetry becoming romantic. So poetry, as per the passage, is more humane. Poetry is more inclusive. Poetry is anachronistic, means poetry is more focusing on present, past, and future. But being romantic or imaginary, that is not what the author is talking about. D. In a world of violence, tyranny, and bigotry, poetry is a form of dynamic resistance. Okay, so yes, the science and religion are basically leading to some form of violence and tyranny, and truth only. People who know about the truth and preaching only the truth can become dictatorial, but definitely it's a form of dynamic resistance. But right now it is not very relevant to the passage. So what is relevant here? Option A. It is the poetry, not science or religion, which recognizes and accepts imperfections in human. Science or religion leads to more power-centric approaches in life. But poetry is more inclusive, is more anachronistic, is more broader, and if it is, as the author is talking about, poetry proposes both humility and defiance. Definitely, poetry will accept imperfections in humans also. Okay, so option A seems to be the right answer. 71, option A. Now, another passage, small passage. The flower was not invented to please us. It flaunted its petals and spread its perfume to attract an insect. Okay, definitely yes, flower has an attractive quality. This insect carries the pollen from flower to flower so that pollen is not carried away by wind and thus not wasted. Very correct. What we call a flower's beauty is merely a byproduct and a human invention. Yes, definitely yes, because flowers look beautiful, but flowers looking beautiful have a purpose. So what is the purpose? To attract an insect. And what is the insect doing? It is distributing pollen from one flower to another. So what we call a flower's beauty is merely a byproduct and a human invention. The last line, the perfume is not there to please us. It pleases us because it is there and we have been conditioned to it. Okay, so definitely yes, the existence of the perfume is of more importance, and it is, if it is existing, definitely it is very good to our senses, and we feel good. But the purpose is not to please us, because it is already existing there, and we have been conditioned to its good smell. Okay, so slightly philosophical. Let us look at the question. So, following assumptions. So, the author of the passage believes that flowers are creations of nature's luxury. Okay, so author is not believing that flowers are creations of nature's luxury. Rather, the author is contradictory to the statement. The author is saying that flowers are made beautiful and they have a purpose. So statement 1 is wrong. It is not nature's luxury, it is nature's necessity, and it is the way the nature survives. So option 1 is ruled out. The author of the passage does not believe in the usefulness of flowers except as things of beauty. This is again a contradictory statement. The author definitely believes in usefulness of flowers, and definitely the author is, that's why, talking about that the insect which is attracted to the beauty of the flower, the smell of the flower, that insect is transferring pollen from one flower to another. Both statements are wrong. So answer is option B, neither 1 nor 2. So almost we are done with the paper, and I think yes, we have completed set C of UPSC Prelims examination 2024. I hope you guys understood, and I hope you guys appreciated the fact that how I was able to differentiate between right and the wrong. And UPSC is not very difficult in terms of reading comprehension. Many statements look correct, but if you read them carefully, the statements have certain words which direct you to negate them. You can reject the incorrect statements very easily. It's just about focusing more on what the passage is talking about and what the statements are talking about. So with that, I'll take your leave, and thank you so much for watching the solutions of UPSC CSAT paper 2 reading comprehension. So we'll see you in another video where we'll come out with solutions of other subjects. So thank you very much and take care.